All right, close enough. So I accidentally deleted my rapid round graphic, so I put up the other graphic for my check-in. So it's actually a rapid round. Sorry. So hey, this is exciting for me because I listened to this gentleman's album and immediately thought he was a unique and great comedian, but let's talk about him right now. I've got a gentleman who shared the spotlight as an opener for Joel McHale, Nikki Glazer, Bert Kreischer, Joey Diaz, Russell Peters, and Dave Chappelle. Holy cow. He is a frequent guest on the nationally syndicated Bob and Tom show. I can't wait to talk about that. His debut album, Dumber Than a Fish, is available on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and all the different places. Several tracks from that album can be heard on Raw Dog Comedy, Laugh USA, and Comedy Roundup on Sirius XM, which is very cool. And without further ado, let's bring up my guest, Gabe Kea. Hey, Gabe.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's really neat to pay attention to Facebook and have people's albums and stuff like that. Actually, I want you over here. That way it looks like I'm looking in the camera. There we go. And have people's albums come out and actually listen to them and find some great people that I didn't know about. So I found yours. I've listened to your album through a few times and really loved it. So Dumber Than a Fish is available everywhere. Make sure that if you listen on Spotify that you actually buy it too, because that's the difference of Gabe making 10 cents a year and a portion of $10. So I always try to make sure that I tell people to do that because It's just people think Spotify is paying you, and they're really not. So
Yeah, I hear you on that. I'm all for whatever. I just want you to hear the album, obviously, but obviously purchasing it helps me more.
yeah. Yeah, no doubt. So let's do that. So one of the things that I do prior to my real recording is do the entertainment tonight style rapid round. So this is where you just pretend like I'm Mario Lopez or whatever, and I ask you some of the questions that they would always ask. So first off, when did you first start doing stand-up?
I started doing stand-up around 2003, so
Okay.
a long time ago, and that was probably just started doing open mics at that time. Probably started actually getting booked and working 4 or 5 years later, maybe like 2009. Started working working on the road a little bit more and working as a stand-up comedian. But yeah, I've been doing stand-up a long time. Started in St. Louis, Missouri, and moved to Cincinnati probably in that 2009, 2010 time period. Been here about 10 years.
Cool. So what was that first open mic like?
It was all my friends. I knew everybody in the audience. I'd honestly come and watch a bunch of shows, a bunch of open mics, and I realized when someone was brand new and they brought everybody, or everybody came to see them, they were like really like taken aback by that, because it's nerve-wracking to get up on stage at all, let alone when you realize, oh my gosh, everybody here knows me. And so I was nervous about that, but I did well. I think I did well, obviously, because I knew a lot of my friends in the crowd and stuff. Your first few times are often like that, and then you hit that third or fourth time where you're in a bar somewhere and you're like, no, oh boy, this is what stand-up's really like.
Yeah. It's funny because you get I think you're probably my 55th interview, and it's a mixture of how those open mics start. Some people actually go into it intentionally. They've watched a few, they do their homework and know that a joke should be this long, or there should actually be a punchline and not just meandering around. And some people just go up because a friend pushed them up. Other people wait for years before they actually go up, but they've always wanted to. So it's a good mixture. And I know that, it's good to have all your friends there on that first one, but it is also nerve-wracking in another way, rather than not having anybody out there that doesn't know you, because your friends, I mean, if you eat dirt, then they're gonna let you know it for the rest of your life. So.
Yes, yeah, and that can be a tough one the first time, because obviously you have no clue about what works, what doesn't work when you get up there. And when I told you the time period, it was a lot different scene too. I just said, like, my third open mic was at a bar. I don't think my third open mic was at a bar. I think back in that time period, like early 2000s, the only open mic was at the club, and it was once a week. So it was like Tuesday, and you'd go and you'd hope to get on the list, and there's only like 15 to 20 people to get on the list. So, some nights you make it, some nights you win, times twice a month, or it's kind of like what's going on right now with the quarantine. It's like the fewer and far between on the open mics. So a lot of different, very different time.
Have you done any of the virtual stuff?
I have. Yeah, I've done some Zoom shows, and at first I was doing quite a bit of them, and then and I've still done some. If I get asked to do something, I'm all for it. But been doing a lot of podcasts. Podcasts are big right now. Podcasts are the new open mics. I'm like, I've got my list here of stuff I got to try out too. So I got my stuff ready if you want some jokes.
Oh, great! That might be cool. We could maybe workshop a couple of them.
Yeah, let's do it.
So who were your influences?
Influences starting out, I had obvious comedians and comedicers and stuff like that I like typical, like Jim Carrey and a lot of Canadian guy. I really like Norm Macdonald when I was I like Conan a lot. I watched a lot of Conan, and I liked how he was kind of loose and riffy, and like would go off on tangents and just be silly, and I really like that. But once I started doing stand-up comedy and that going to the open mics and stuff, I would more just watch people at the shows. And starting out in St. Louis, Missouri, I watched a lot of like Greg Warren and Dan Chopin and Brett Clausen, Mike McRae, some of these guys that and Andy Smith, people that had been doing it longer than me, men and women that all had a unique style of what they did. And I really did enjoy, and I still enjoy watching live stand-up comedy much more than like a special or something on TV or something like that. So when my influences changed to like basically who was in my proximity and who was performing a lot, and then those are the people that talked to me too and told me, how to do stand-up comedy, how they did it, how they learned to do it, different aspects of that. So all those people that I named there were around in the St. Louis area when I was starting out, and they were also more established comedians. There's people that were coming up at the same time as me, or like people that went on to have excellent careers that I learned a lot from. Tommy Johnigan, Nikki Glazer, those people are from St. Louis area as well. Andy Woodhull.
Yeah, Tommy Johnigan's he's great. He's one of my big ones. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's one of my all-time favorites. I remember the first time I saw him on stage, I was like, whoa, who's this kid?
He's different.
Yeah. I was like,
he's got a style. So this changes the pace a little bit. This is something I like to know because I'm a voracious reader and listener of podcasts and music and stuff like that. Have you listened lately to any books, podcasts, music, read an article, anything? Have you had anything that just kind of turned on a light bulb for you and gave you some new stuff to think about, new stuff that maybe may change your act a little bit or anything like that?
I read Sam Tallent's book. I haven't totally finished it, so I'm in the middle of reading Sam Tallent's book. I really like that. That's if you've ever done some road gigs, that's a very, very, very accurate depiction of working stand-up comedy on the road. I was given by a neighbor, I was given the book that it's like the story of me, and it's by the person that wrote the Comedy Bible, the same person that did that.
Okay.
And I usually when I started, I didn't read a lot of stand-up comedy books and how to, and even getting that from a neighbor was like, thanks a lot, buddy. Yeah. Thanks for the book on how to become a stand-up comedian. I'm like, I kind of already am, I don't need a book.
Yeah.
But out of I was like, well, let me check this out. And I read a little bit about it, and I really liked what the person was saying. And I found parts that I already do. And, it's not like my perceived notion of him giving me the book. I'm like, oh yeah, I do a lot of this stuff. This is how I write. And this is what I write about. And I like writing autobiographical as much as possible. And so that's a really good book that a neighbor gave me that kind of offended me. And I really, really like the podcast Middle of Somewhere with Cy Amundsen and Chad Daniels. And I've been,
okay. I haven't heard of that one.
Oh, it's really good. And I've been listening to that just like I was driving recently, and I would just listen to 4 episodes in a row. And both those guys, they're from Minnesota. One lives in Minneapolis, one lives up north in Fergus Falls, and they have a really great podcast. Very funny, both very hilarious guys, but also fast paced. And you listen to 3 episodes and be like, what? Oh, that was 3 hours? How'd that happen? So yeah, really like that podcast.
I really wish I had more time in the day to listen to all the podcasts I want to, because you just gave me that one, and I've got 15 on my list that I still want to listen to. So it's hard, and I'm not driving as much as I was, so I don't don't get to plug that in as much. So
yeah, exactly.
And my wife, when we're listening to podcasts, when we're driving together, she just likes, murder, serial murder stuff. So, yeah. And those are okay. It's a change of pace.
She's like, you're like, some of these people kill. They're really good killers.
Yeah, for sure. Last question for the rapid round. What comedy album or special would you consider to be your all-time favorite? And you can go top 3 if you want.
Ooh, comedy album or special to be my all-time favorite. How many people say their own as number 1? Probably a lot. You know what? I don't have a lot of favorites, but there's an album that Jimmy Pardo recorded at Go Bananas Comedy Club where he's riffing the whole time. I really like that one. I can't even think of the name of it, but that's super funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then I could say, yeah, any of Tommy Johnigan's stand-up 1, 2, or 3. Those are all excellent. So, and anything Andy Woodhull has out, I always like his. He's one of my favorite comics as well. So, there you go.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, as far as I want to kind of do this live, just because I know how hard it is for comedians to do anything right now. And you recorded this album, Dumber Than a Fish, last year, but you put it out this year. What's it like putting an album out during a pandemic? I mean, was it all the working parts? I mean, you have to do pretty much remotely. How was it, just business wise, putting it out?
That is a difficult part. I was very fortunate to have recorded at a club in January. So
okay,
a few months before the clubs had shut down. And I had friends that like had their album artwork made. They had the week set out. And then it was like in March or April that they were supposed to record their album. I can't imagine if that was the scenario with me, I would be hard to deal with. But there's so many aspects of doing an album and putting an album together, all from, first off, is booking the right situation. Like sometimes some people like to do a one night, tell everybody I'm recording an album. It's this Wednesday night at this comedy club, and pack the room out and have one shot. And then that's it. That's the album. You're not, you can edit it together, but there's no. And then the other aspect would be like the week of comedy where you like record every night, and then kind of what I did is I did that and I searched for the base good show that was like, this is the one I want to work with. And then I can cut some pieces out, put some pieces in from the other shows, which isn't as easy as it would sound. But that's what I also had to do kind of remotely. At first I was meeting with this, a local comic, Clinton Jacob, he does an excellent job of sound engineer and editing. And he was putting together the stuff. We met probably 4 or 5 times, had like 3 or 4 hour sessions of just listening to me over and over again. Very, very, very painful for both of us.
Yeah.
I really don't like listening to myself, especially with someone there that you're like, oh, that's oh, great. You get to hear that too. I mean,
I'm very much the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody can hear all of it. I think we went through the Sunday show and I was just like, hey, can we just stop? Let's just stop. We don't need to listen to the second half of this. You could just tell that the laughter was like so much different than all the other. So it was like, well, this would totally stick out if we added it onto the album.
Yeah.
So that's a difficult part. That does take some time, and it does take some coordination, communication, all that's important to have with, if you're doing it through a record label or if you're self-producing or however you're doing it. You want to have everybody on the same page. You want to pay everybody well ahead of time, not pay them like, once the album comes out, I'll pay you. I was like trying to make sure everybody's taken care of as they're doing it. Artwork, they're not waiting on any money from, the guy that should be paying. I'll pay him. And then when he pays you, you can get me back or whatever. Yeah. I had a local comedian Chris Weir, he did the artwork for the cover there. That he basically came up with the concept just from me telling him this is what the title is going to be, and the title is, it's kind of the tag of my opening joke. The last line of my first joke is what the album is named after. And Clinton helped me come up with that name too. I was kind of I had a few different ideas of what to do, and but I like it. It's unique. It's it kind of draws you in too. Dumber than a fish. What's that mean? You know, like, so I kind of like that aspect of it. Also, funny. And I'm talking about how like comedy's done as a community. The line "dumber than a fish." It used to be, I think, I would talk about like the state over the state and how they all think they're stupid. And you get down to Mississippi and they're like, "Fish, they're stupid." And I think I had something like the Gulf of Mexico. That's the dumbest state. Before that, I had a different line that I was doing in the joke, and one of the comedians that I looked up to starting out, Robert Hawkins, told me why don't you just say fish, like, and he's just fish, just say the word, and it worked beautifully. And it was like, oh, you changed my whole joke, Robert, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even think about that until the album's made, it's out, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, even the title is given to me. Like, am I just like a total hack that's like, take anything you got, people, come on.
You can take all the help you can get. But I mean, that opener is just fantastic, and I think Dumber Than a Fish really fits, you know, the tone of the album anyway. So it's really good.
Thanks. Good. Yeah, that opener is also, it obviously changes depending on where you are and what, like, if I'm in Indiana, Kentucky's still relatable there. But sometimes, like, if you're in Oklahoma, you'll be like, how do you feel about Texas? And they're all like, yeah, we know that, you know, like, it seems to work pretty much anywhere. And it's an observation of observational comedy. You know, that's usually what people go in and they make fun of Kentucky. That's just like, that's what they do when they go to Ohio, you know? So
yeah, no doubt. All right. Well, folks, we are going to go offline and do the meat of the interview. And as always, you can subscribe to Behind the Bits on any podcast app. If you find a podcast app that I'm not on, then let me know, because I think I've put myself on every one that's out there. But Gabe and I are going to talk offline, and make sure to listen tomorrow to the Larry Hankin part 2, because that's a good interview. And Larry told me that we talked about stuff that nobody's ever asked him. So I enjoyed that. And Larry was a cool guy. So make sure to check that out tomorrow. That's coming out at midnight. And we're going to go offline and talk.